I'm Claudia Dreyfus of the Science section of the New York Times. Here with me is Dr. Philip Zimbardo, the author of a new Random House book, The Lucifer Effect. Dr. Zimbardo has spent his entire professional life studying the dark side of the human psyche. He's a former president of the American Psychological Association, and he's best known for the Stanford prison experiment. There he showed how conformity and boredom can be used to induce sadistic behavior in otherwise normal college students. More recently, and perhaps surprisingly, Zimbardo served on the defense team of Chip Frederick, an Army reservist who was court-martialed in the Abu Ghraib scandal. The links between the Stanford prison experiment and Abu Ghraib are the subject of his new book, and also of this conversation. Dr. Zimbardo, for those of us who didn't study it in freshman psychology, what was the Stanford prison experiment?
Well, Claudia, many years ago, actually back in 1971, I did this little experiment at Stanford University where we created a prison, actually a simulated prison. And in that mock prison, we put a number of young men, college students from all over the country who happened to be in the San Francisco area in the summer. They had just finished summer school at Stanford or Cal, and they responded to an ad I put in the city newspaper, wanted college students for study of prison life, 2 weeks, $15 a day. And we gave them battery of personality tests, did background checks. We picked 24 who were the most normal, most healthy. We randomly assigned these good boys to the roles of prisoner or guard. That means literally by flipping a coin, half of them were guards and half were prisoners. So at the beginning of the study, what we know is we only have good apples in this bad place. And what happened was they improvised the role. So if you think of this as a kind of movie or reality TV, within 36 hours, the first normal, healthy student who was a prisoner had an emotional breakdown.
I feel really up inside. You don't know. I gotta go. To a doctor, anything. I can't say that. I'm up. I don't know how to explain it. I'm up inside. Help me out! Help me out!
He had a breakdown because the guards began to brutalize the prisoners, creating a totally arbitrary environment. I prevented them from being physically violent, but then they became creatively, psychologically violent.
Now, there's a couple ways that we can do this, depending upon what you want to do. Now, if 416 does not want to eat his sausages, then you can give me the blankets and sleep on the bare mattress, or you can keep your blankets and 416 will stay in another day. Now, what would it be?
I'll keep my blankets.
What will it be over here?
I'll keep my blankets.
How about 5486?
I'll give you my blankets, Mr. Correctional Officer.
You don't want his blanket.
Well, now you boys got to come to some kind of decision here.
We got three in favor of keeping the blanket.
We got three, guess one. Keep your blankets, 416, you're going to be in there for a while. So just get used to it.
And each day after that, another prisoner broke down, so that within 6 days, 5 of the prisoners had emotional breakdowns. The ones who didn't break down were behaving like zombies, totally obedient to whatever the guards' escalating demands were. Some guards behaved sadistically and is taking pleasure in inflicting suffering. And the good guards were good by not doing bad things, but they never intervened. They never stopped the bad guards. And we had to end the study because it was out of control.
As I read your book, I get the sense that you feel guilty about the Stanford prison experiment.
I feel guilty in part because I was responsible for creating a situation in which people suffer. And so, yes, I felt guilty then. I feel guilty now. And I have worked to resolve that guilt over the past 35 years in many different ways.
Where were you when you first heard of Abu Ghraib?
I was in Washington, D.C. While I was there, I turned on the television, and there is the 60-minute broadcast showing these images from Abu Ghraib. I immediately had the shock of recognition. These were the same visual images that I had seen 35 years ago.
So how did you come to join the defense team you, who's somebody who is politically liberal, of Chip Frederick, who was accused of some of the abuses at Abu Ghraib.
Yeah, he did some of those horrible things.
Well, did you have a hard time joining his defense team? Was it hard for you to do?
In coming to the defense of Chip Frederick, what that gave me the opportunity to do is to get the information I needed to say, were these bad apples or were these good American soldiers put in a bad barrel? He is the most normal, most average, middle American, super patriot imaginable. When Chip Frederick goes down into the dungeon, and the dungeon is Tier 1A Abu Ghraib, it's a special place because it's the center for the interrogation of detainees. There was never surveillance, there was never oversight, there was never a senior officer in 3 months down in that basement. So these soldiers had no discipline. This is not my saying it. I read all 12 investigative reports. These are by generals and James Schlesinger, the Secretary of Defense. Every one of these reports said these abuses would not have occurred were it not for a failure of leadership, absence of leadership. It's the most chaotic conditions you can imagine. And he is complaining. He's saying, well, what are the rules of engagement? And they're saying, soften the prisoners up. Take the gloves off. I trace in the book where that statement comes down through the hierarchy.
One of the things that I sense as I read your book is your feeling that almost anyone put in a certain situation will engage in sadistic or horrible or, as you call them, evil acts.
The Lucifer effect is really a psychological celebration of the human mind. It's really the beauty of the human mind has the infinite capacity to be kind or cruel, destructive or creative, caring or selfish, and to make some of us heroes and some villains. That is, people are not born good or bad. There's not a line between good and evil. We have the capacity to do anything any individual has ever done. Once it becomes imaginable, we could do it. What determines whether we do or not is the situations we create and the situations that corrupt or seduce us. We have to understand how situations shape us much more than we want to believe. We want to believe that good and evil come from within, that good and evil are essentialized, that they are qualities of people, and they're not.
Well, Anne Frank, the Holocaust martyr, wrote in one of the final entries in her diary, despite everything, I still believe that people are good in their heart. Do you?
Of course, I'm an optimist. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that people are good in their heart. But I'll counter with Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who was a poet but a prisoner in Gulag Archipelago, who said the line between good and evil cuts through the center of every human heart. So good and evil are part of the human condition. It's just a fallacy to believe that there are people who are good and people who are bad, rather than there are people who have the capacity to be good or bad, and whether they become that depends entirely on the kind of situation they're in, because the situation controls you.
But doesn't that kind of argument exonerate wrongdoers?
Wrong. That's a wrong statement. It doesn't
Why
exonerate.
Is it wrong?
It's only by understanding evil. It's only by understanding the causes of wrongdoers that you can begin to change the situation that creates it. It's only by changing the prison conditions, in this case by having oversight, by having senior officers down there with strict rules, and you eliminate that kind of behavior.
Dr. Zimbardo, thank you so much. I'm Claudia Dreyfus for the science section of the New York Times.